What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, January 11th, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 16:39 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Iran. So it looks like the U.S. could be striking Iran as soon as tomorrow. I want to update you guys with some of the latest information that I have related to that, but it does look like the U.S. is about to launch some type of large-scale aerial attack, aerial bombardment, airstrikes on Iran. So right now, this afternoon, we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. What you're looking at here are 3 U.S. nuclear war command and control planes up in the air over the continental United States. This is extremely unusual in general. Typically, you only see 1 or 2 of them in the air at any given time. For there to be 3 in the air at the same time on a Sunday afternoon is extremely unusual. Typically on weekends, the patrols of these planes are reduced, especially Sundays. So this is clearly a sign that potentially as soon as tonight or tomorrow, there could be massive strikes on Iran. And if there are strikes, I will go live and cover it live. I do have a 24/7 live stream running right now, so you can tune in and get some of the latest information from my awesome moderators. So you can see 1 nuclear war command and control plane over California, 1 over the Central Plains, and then 1 over the southeastern U.S. We also had a U.S. government VIP fly from Washington, D.C. to Strategic Command Headquarters at Offutt Air Base. So this could be a high-ranking general. It could even be the vice president. This is also a major sign that something is about to go down if we're moving VIPs to bunkers and specifically Strategic Command, which is where Bush went after 9/11. Bush and his top advisors, including his national security advisor, went there after 9/11. And last night, we also had a U.S. presidential doomsday plane fly from D.C. to the Strategic Command headquarters as well. This was late last night. So they're moving VIPs to Stratcom headquarters. That tells me that they're getting ready to make some kind of big move. Okay, Strategic Command headquarters is basically like the brain of the U.S. military. Okay, from there they can command all of the U.S. military, every single branch, every single combatant command. So that's why it's called Strategic Command. And we're hearing reports that apparently as many as 2,000 Iranian protesters have already been killed in the last 2 to 3 days. This was reported by some Iranian sources. So a conservative estimate is of 2,000 or more protesters killed. Okay, remember what Trump said in his tweet. He said, and he said it numerous times on various news outlets when he was doing interviews, that if they start killing the protesters, we're going to go in. The U.S. military is ready. Okay, he posted that on Truth Social like 2 weeks ago, and he reiterated it multiple times that Iran has a tendency of shooting and killing their people when they protest, and he's not going to allow it. Okay, so that's probably why Trump is preparing a strike as soon as tonight or tomorrow. And the Wall Street Journal, citing U.S. officials, is reporting that Trump administration officials have held preliminary discussions on a potential attack on Iran, including possible target sites, with one option involving a large-scale aerial strike on Iranian military targets. Okay, so that was the Wall Street Journal citing U.S. officials' preliminary discussions on an attack on Iran. And reports are suggesting hundreds, if not thousands, of Iranian protesters are already killed, according to multiple U.S. officials familiar with the matter who spoke to the New York Times. So we have U.S. officials reporting hundreds, if not thousands, dead, and then we have Iranian sources that are anti-regime sources reporting the same thing, okay? So Trump has to act because he made all these threats, and if he doesn't act, it's going to make him look weak. So, you know, he's got to do something now. And Iranian sources are reporting that Iran's underground missile cities have been placed on the highest level of alert, ready to strike at a moment's notice. The Iranian supreme leader ordered the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is part of the Iranian military, to take back the streets from the protesters. So in the last 2 to 3 days, we've been seeing an increase in violence, obviously with all the protesters being killed. But it seems like over the last 2 to 3 days, the regime has really started to crack down. They're deploying special forces units, their top units, their IRGC, to try to quell this uprising. And we're now hearing reports that the IRGC and the Iranian regime security forces are shooting at protesters from rooftops with sniper rifles. Okay, they're randomly targeting protesters from rooftops. Okay, Trump is not going to like that, and I'm sure he's got a lot of intelligence showing that. And the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a phone call yesterday, and they discussed the possibility of a U.S. intervention in Iran during that phone call, okay? And we know that Netanyahu held an unprecedented meeting yesterday at the Israeli Defense Ministry headquarters, okay? And typically on a Saturday, you don't have Netanyahu flying to the Defense Ministry unless it's something very serious, okay? Because Saturday is the holy day in Israel. So he flew there on the holy day to meet with his generals, and he had an emergency meeting at the Israeli Pentagon, okay? And we now have a new video that came out showing a body collection site set up by the Iranian regime forces to collect all the bodies of the protesters that they've killed. I can't show it here on YouTube, but it's out there on social media. There's just like a big auditorium type location where they have body bags. It's pretty sickening. And so we're hearing reports of Iranian security forces using snipers to randomly target protesters in the streets from rooftops. A doctor in the city of Neyshabur said security forces shot at protesters from the top of buildings on Friday. She said, quote, "They are shooting from rooftops and terraces. They are not on the street where people can see and run away," she said in an audio message to Iran Wire. They even shoot at ordinary pedestrians. The doctor said a family of 6 passing by was shot. So was an elderly woman's nurse as she was on her way home in Neyshabur. A woman in her mid-60s and a 70-year-old man described seeing people of all ages out in the streets of the Iranian capital on Thursday and Friday. On Friday night, however, security forces brandishing military rifles killed many people, they told CNN. So lots of reports of the Iranian regime shooting and killing people. And Iran warned Trump yesterday that an American attack would lead Tehran to retaliate by striking Israel and U.S. military bases in the region. And this was stated by the Speaker of the Iranian parliament. So here's the video of him giving that warning. I'm going to play it for you, and then at the end you'll hear the whole parliament rise up, and they're saying Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. So let me just play this for you.
مراقب باش مشاوره هایی که به تو برای حمله به ایران میدهند از جنس مشورت هایی نباشند که گفتی مشهد سقوط کرده است. لذا برای اینکه دچار خطای محاسباتی و بر اساس نشانه های عینود این را به شما در منطقه بگویم، محاسباتی نکنید، سودی نخواهد داشت. الله اکبر، الله اکبر، آمریکا.
So you can hear them cheering Allah Akbar. So that was the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament saying that they're going to strike American bases. And I want to remind you guys that we don't have an aircraft carrier in the region, okay? We don't have enough assets to intercept thousands or hundreds of missiles if they were launched at American bases. So this could get pretty crazy. The Iranians, if they feel like their missiles are going to be attacked or the regime is going to be attacked, they may just decide to do a preemptive strike with all of their missiles. So this could get pretty crazy. And there was some reports that Iran has started jamming all satellite communications, including Starlink. And yesterday there was a lot of U.S. Navy tactical communications, including U.S. Navy ship-to-ship communications and position sharing of the different ships on tactical frequencies. Okay, so the Navy seems to be gearing up for something. And the U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood during the daring raid to capture dictator Nicolas Maduro, according to a witness account posted Saturday on X by the White House press secretary. In a jaw-dropping interview, the guard described how American forces wiped out hundreds of fighters without losing a single soldier, using technology unlike anything he has ever seen or heard. We were on guard, but suddenly all our radar systems shut down without any explanation, the guard said. The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. So they're saying some kind of sonic weapon or some kind of exotic weapon was used in this raid to overwhelm the Maduro security forces. And British officials have met with German and French officials to start preparations for deploying a military force to Greenland amid threats from Trump that he wants to take Greenland back. And President Trump warned Friday during a meeting with nearly 24 oil executives that Russia and China will not move in on the nations of Venezuela or Greenland on his watch. He said, quote, "We are going to do something on Greenland whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. We don't want to have Russia there." So that's what he said. We're gonna take it whether they like it or not. We're gonna do something whether they like it or not. And he said, if we don't take Greenland, you can have Russia or China as your next door neighbor. That's not going to happen. So he clearly says, if we don't take Greenland, you can have Russia or China as your next door neighbor. Wow. And Trump apparently ordered the U.S. Army to draft invasion plans for Greenland, according to the British Daily Mail. And we're hearing that senior military officials in the Trump administration have so far thus resisted any kind of military option. But he did order the U.S. Army to draft an invasion plan. So that is huge news. And the UN is going to be holding an emergency meeting tomorrow about the Oreshnik missile strike on western Ukraine, which is a huge deal, guys, because now Russia knows that they can use these ICBMs against Ukraine and there's no punishment for it. So naturally, they're going to use them more and more, and then eventually they're going to put nuclear warheads on these Oreshniks and just nuke Ukraine, okay? But they were clearly sending a message to the Trump administration and to the Europeans to back off, okay? Because Trump seized that Russian oil tanker that left Venezuela, and that was after the Russians sent a formal diplomatic request to the U.S. not to seize that ship. And what did the U.S. do? They took it anyway, okay? So Russia's not happy about that. Also, the fact that we captured Maduro, Putin's probably not happy about it. And now the talk of taking Greenland over and putting missiles there, Putin is definitely very, very concerned about all that. So I'm not saying I necessarily agree with Putin. I'm just giving you his perspective, okay? And earlier this afternoon, we had multiple aerial refuelers fly down towards the Gulf from Spokane. So I don't know if this is related to operations in Latin America, land strikes against Mexico or somewhere else in Latin America, or if this is related to the Iran situation. We also had a Russian open skies plane last night, airborne, and it flew from Moscow down towards the Caucasus region. And interestingly, this is where the Oreshnik missile was launched from the base of Kapustin Yar, which is just north of the Caucasus here. So these planes are sort of like radar planes. They're very sensitive planes used to detect the presence of enemy missiles and radars and things like that. They were used for nuclear weapons compliance back in the day under the Open Skies Treaty, which the U.S. and Russia don't do anymore, where they would fly planes over each other's missile sites and for the purposes of verifying treaty compliance, okay? But now Russia uses these to gather information about Ukrainian air defenses and also to validate some of their missiles when they launch attacks against Ukraine. They use these planes to see how the missile worked, you know, did it function the way they wanted it to or not. So to gather data about the missile, okay? And we're hearing that yesterday Cuba carried out an intensive day of military drills, including drills in strategic locations to specialized training in marksmanship, communications, and air defense operations. So the Cubans are concerned that they could end up like Maduro. And then here we have another U.S. sub-hunter off the coast of Baja, California for the second night in a row. And they started flying like this ever since Trump said they were going to start land strikes on Mexico. But all these refuelers going down to the Gulf could be related to land strikes on Mexico. Okay, could be refueling support for fighter jets. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I'm going to be monitoring the situation with Iran. And I will be going live potentially later on tonight. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithnyprepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from NYPrepper Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.